Cooperator. Those who work to fulfill Velzard's wish. This, too, is a tale from ancient times. It all began when, on a whim, he saved that being who was on the verge of vanishing. Not only was his material body destroyed, but even his spiritual body was obliterated, leaving only his astral body. Despite this, he proved to be unexpectedly useful as an advisor to Velzard. He shamelessly said he wanted to study the dragon species. Instead of allowing that to happen, Velzard treated him as his own limb, and that was how they'd established a long-standing coexistence. But at last, the existence of her cooperator seemed to have been discovered. Velzard smiled. Hahaha. You're really something, Testarossa. You found it so easily, just like that. Man, this isn't funny. I wanted to hide in the shadows more and do whatever I wanted. Pseudo-dragon form is already complete, isn't it? You also said that the performance tests were perfect, didn't you? Well, that's true, but you know, I'm weak, so. What do you mean? You used to act all high and mighty back in the day. Ahahaha, so you almost got wiped out because of that. That's pretty careless, don't you think? This time, I've reflected and decided to live more carefully and humbly. Laughing at that, he said, well then, I'll be going, and his collaborator separated from Velzard. And so, he appeared before her in order to deal with Testarossa. With that, the war situation reached a major turning point. The Creek and Velzard. Testarossa and Velzard's collaborators. They each faced each other head-on. Testarossa saw the person and immediately figured out who it was. What a smooth young man. On closer inspection, she looks like a woman. He was wearing a blue turtleneck and a bright red suit. His shoes were white and rimmed with gold. It was flashy, but it had a sense of taste, and it actually had a fitting appearance. And what was particularly distinctive were the gold and silver demon eyes heterochromia that emitted an eerie red and blue glow. There was something about his features that vaguely resembled luminous. With a gender and eye color that seemed to be the complete opposite, his appearance was the kind you wouldn't forget after just one glance. However, Testarossa had never actually met that person. As such, his appearance doesn't serve as any kind of judgment. They just know that person's true nature, that innocent madness. Based on his features that reminded her of luminous, Testarossa's guess probably wasn't wrong. Poking the bush and bringing out a snake, was that how it went? I heard that in Rimuru-sama's previous world, there was such a saying. This feels exactly like that. With that, Testarossa grew fed up. It had been fine until she'd seen through someone's existence and lured them out, but her opponent was more troublesome than she'd imagined. Oh my, how nostalgic. This is the first time we've met, but I've heard the rumors. Ahahaha. It's an honor for me to have the White Queen remember me. I remember. It's rare to see someone as wild as you. Besides, we acknowledged your achievements in giving birth to humanity. Right, Twilight King. The person grinned as Testarossa called him the Twilight King. Call me Twilight. That's the name I got from Valentine-sama. Yes, please do. As long as you call me Testarossa. With smiles still on their faces, they exchanged blades of words and unleashed their bloodlust on each other. Testarossa remembered. The King of Twilight, Twilight Valentine, is a figure known as the ancestral god of the vampire race, and can also be referred to as the primordial of humanity. With Valentinova's confidant, he's given birth to many races in order to achieve his wish. The same held true for the vampires, led by Luminous, as well as the true humanity, which was now considered to be an extinct race. Other than that, the birth of the many races thought to have been derived from spirits was also thanks to Twilight's involvement. The one who created the indispensable existence of humans, the demons, was also Twilight. That's why Testarossa acknowledges Twilight, just as she said. However, Twilight was also famous for his misdeeds, as opposed to his achievements. The series of experiments that disregarded morality were enough to make anyone who knew of their deeds frown. For those with weak hearts, it was enough to drive them mad, and at the very least, it was inevitable that they would be haunted by nightmares. Such was the horrifying nature of these acts. He was craftier than the devil, and he had no human heart. He had left behind achievements that were detestable by everyone. Indeed, when Rain learned of Twilight's resurrection, she exclaimed, "Ugh, that guy, he really is still alive, huh? He's even more tenacious than a cockroach." To which Misery scolded her, saying, "Your language is terrible." In fact, Testarossa, for once, felt like agreeing with Rain. Testarossa, huh? That's a nice name. I didn't think anyone else would be stupid enough to name a primordial like you. That statement made Testarossa quietly snap. She couldn't forgive the insults alone against her, but Twilight had crossed the line. Testarossa's heart had been set upon the moment her beloved Rimuru was mocked. "I really do hate you." Testarossa coldly announced her intent to kill, thick with bloodlust. Since she was going to laugh it off, Twilight's courage was extraordinary, too. "Fufu, don't say it like that. I like you guys. After all, you guys are the best research subjects." Velzard was cooperative, but Guy couldn't let his guard down. He tried to find opportunities to investigate various things, but if he were to make any careless moves, it seemed like Twilight would notice my presence immediately. As a result, he haven't been able to do anything for a long time, and that's how things have remained until now. Still, it's been a while since he's been gained a body that's free, so Twilight thought, maybe it'd be nice to play a little here. Testarossa couldn't have been more perfect as a combat opponent for the first time in her life. That was also the reason why he'd fanned the flames a little to get Testarossa serious. However, that was a little too much, but Twilight hadn't noticed. If you were killed by your beloved daughter, Luminous, you should have just stayed dead. This time, I'll make sure you can't come back. I'll bury you completely, leaving nothing behind. That was Testarossa's declaration, but she was really trying to judge Twilight. She's furious, but she don't let my guard down. She separated her heart from her emotions and calmly continued her analysis of the situation. The divine ancestor was a highly immortal life form, wasn't he? However, he shouldn't have been able to master the use of parallel existence, like Velgrand's Sama. And disintegration had landed a direct hit, and Twilight had vanished without leaving a trace. Of course, a direct hit wouldn't be enough to prevent even Testarossa, the primordial, from disappearing. There's no theory that she ran away right before the incident. Rain must have witnessed it too, so there's proof. It was a direct hit and annihilated. In that case, it would be a resurrection from nothingness, but she wasn't sure if such a thing was even possible. Testarossa considered another possibility, the parallel existence technique that Velgrand excels at. This could explain how Twilight managed to escape, but Testarossa is inclined to think that this might not be the case. That's why Twilight's been hiding up until now, because she can't explain it. If Twilight had been able to handle the parallel existence, he would have acted much more boldly. He would never have left Luminous, who betrayed him, alone, and the world would have been thrown into even greater chaos. To begin with, there are only a handful of individuals who can handle the parallel existence. It is an ability of the highest difficulty, to the extent that even Veldora and Rimuru cannot perfectly master it. A similar authority is Rain's omnipresent mist. However, for that ability, all of her clones need to be within a visible range. It's impossible to have them active on the far side of a planet, so it's not as convenient as the parallel existence ability. As far as Testarossa knew, only Velgrand and Saoi could wield parallel existence. When Saoi handles it, there is actually a hidden condition that is essential. By entrusting his heart core to his former master, Benimaru, he is merely manipulating the two bodies from a god's perspective. When dealing within visual range, Saoi alone is sufficient. However, when operating a parallel existence from a distant location, it was necessary to borrow the authority of Benimaru as well. That said, it would be abnormal to say such a thing was possible, so in Saoi's case, it didn't matter if it was an exception. What's important is how difficult it is to split consciousness. If we were to use a method that exploits others, like Saoi does, it might be possible to handle a parallel existence, even in the relationship between Rimuru and Veldora. However, there's no meaning in going that far. This is because Rimuru and Veldora act as each other's safety mechanisms, so even if one of them were to perish, the other could survive and facilitate a revival. By the way, if Vega had been able to fully master his own authority, he might have been capable of something like creating a parallel existence. It was fortunate that it didn't come to that, but that was something Testarossa was unaware of. As such, Velgrand was the only one who could truly wield a parallel existence. Even if this guy can master parallel existence, it doesn't matter. Whether he can use it or not, I'll thoroughly kill him to make it clear. There's nothing better than seeing and experiencing everything with your own eyes. That's what Testarossa decided, and she swore to kill Twilight. Rain looked at Twilight, and her face twitched. Whoa, he really is alive. He's tougher than a cockroach. That's how she ended up blurting out her true feelings without thinking, and Misery scolded her, saying, "You don't speak well." But she hated him that much, so there was no helping it. He wasn't good. Yeah, that's right. I really hate bugs. That's it. Moss wanted to retort as he listened to the conversation, but he didn't have the guts to interrupt the original conversation. Actually, it felt like a joke that no one would believe a primordial would freak out from a bug. To such a Moss, Saka, who had been as quiet as a Jizo statue, speaks up. Maybe Testarossa-sen isn't good with bugs, either. Huh. No, I was just curious, but if that's the case, I thought it might be a weak point. When she asked that, Moss's eyes became dots. A weakness. You think something so rude to the primordials? Huh. Is she serious? Moss shuddered at Saka, thinking that she had an incredibly terrifying idea, unlike her appearance. He don't know if she dislikes bugs, and he have no desire to find out. Attempting to uncover the weaknesses of a primordial, especially Testarossa's, is an act that borders on taboo. At least, that's how it was for Moss. Rain and Misery were whispering to each other, as if they had overheard Moss and the others' conversation. I wonder if that dragonite girl isn't afraid of Testarossa. Could it be that you're planning to throw a G at me? That's a terrifying idea. Stop it, Rain. Just listening to you gives me goosebumps. Me too. I shuddered when I said it myself. It was a fairly loud volume, as if she had no intention of hiding it. This was the moment when the two primordial discovered their unexpected weaknesses, but Moss wasn't happy in the least. It was because he instinctively sensed that the flow of this conversation was dangerous. Hey, could you stop saying dangerous things like that? I don't want you to get me involved. Just the fact that he was there even though he hadn't said anything could be considered the same crime as Moss thinks the same thing. The moment he didn't stop saying that, there was no doubt that he would be forced to take joint responsibility. Was there anything dangerous about it? Like I said, bugs. It has nothing to do with you whether Testarossa likes bugs or not, does it? That is not the case. My original mission is to be covert, so I am obligated to report the information I have obtained to Master Zoe. It would be a problem if it was uncertain, so it is necessary to confirm it. Like I said. Moss wanted to tell her to keep her voice down and not get himself involved. However, it doesn't work on Saka. This is actually a more important topic than you might think. It's well known that Rimuru-sama absolutely detests cockroaches, so much so that areas including Rimuru-sama residence and the guest houses are thoroughly maintained to eliminate pests. However, not too long ago, a single cockroach appeared in the courthouse, and it caused quite an uproar. And so, she began to explain everything Moss hadn't known, and he didn't want to know. According to Saka, cooperator had snapped when she was there. Apparently, there had been an outrageously huge incident where the staff members rushed to stop them, trying to fire off nuclear magic inside the building. Rimuru was also upset about this, well, not exactly upset, as he said something like, yeah, I get how you feel. And ended up defending cooperator, which made things quite complicated. As a result, an extermination team consisting of individuals resistant to insects was organized, and it was decided that cooperator would not even be allowed to lay eyes on them.